Kimberly here with my take on Expeditions. This is a game by Stonemaier Games, and if you've seen a couple videos on my channel, you'll know that Stonemaier Games just fits with my brain. I have realized over the years of playing so many of these strategy games, and I have to say that Expeditions really tripped me up at the beginning, but once I understood the game, I think it absolutely fits in line with everything else that I've played so far. And what I mean by that is there are so many asymmetrical, non-similar starts and actions that players can activate or take that it can be really hard to determine where you stand while you're playing the game, which is so fascinating because players are really doing a variety of things, not always the same thing, even though all the same actions are available to them. So what I want to do is talk a little bit about Expeditions, maybe how it surprised me, how it is similar to Scythe, which this is a sequel to. It's in the same universe, in the same world, but also how it fits in with all those other Stonemaier games and what it's going to offer players so you can see if this is right for you. So Expeditions is a 1 to 5 player game and it takes about 90 minutes to play, maybe a little bit shorter if you have fewer players. Always give that extra time that first time you're playing though, and I will shout out to Rodney for Watch It Played. He's got a fantastic tutorial on how to play this game, so if you want to learn all the ins and outs and the rules, make sure you watch his video. I just thought it was thoroughly clear and helpful, especially after reading the rulebook myself and wanting to get into this game. So, Expeditions, you are going out and exploring. This is a competitive, card-driven, tableau or engine-building game where you explore. And you'll have this map that you design with these hexes. They're tiles, massive tiles, and you will put them into the south, the central, and the north. And then there will be several places where you have gaps, and that's where you're going to place cards. Now this is, again, a card-driven game, so the cards are the heart of the game. And there are going to be places where you can gain cards, but you can also draw cards from the deck, and players are going to be managing this hand of cards in a really fascinating way. And I think the coolest part about this game is what you get to do on your turn based on where your figure is. So you have a little marker on your personal player board, and it's going to be on something. And what you have to do is move it, and you are going to move it. There are 3 different places it can go. One is you say, I'm just going to do the refresh phase, and I'm going to essentially reset everything and put the marker down at the bottom right space. Then there is a space that is an empty blank box that is left from the refresh space, and when you move to that space on your next turn, you will then be able to do all 3 of the major actions which are listed above it. Move, play, and gather. But on your next turn, you are going to move that marker to one of those 3 spaces, covering up one of those actions, meaning you do the other 2. And from that point on, you simply move it from one of those spaces to one of the other 2 spaces on your next turn, doing those 2 actions. So one of the 3 isn't available to you until you do the refresh action, in which you get everything back, and then the next turn you get to do all 3 for that really, really cool, super juiced turn. But it doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to do all 3 of those actions, because you might be activating them on your cards, and you might be activating them on the locations that you go to. So you really have to strategize and figure out where can you maximize your turn, because as I've noticed in these Stonemaier games, particularly here in Expeditions, maximize your turn. When are you going to get the best bang for your buck and be thinking turns ahead so that you can plan for those options, those potentials, those, opportunities. So just a really cool feature of what you get to do on your turn. And so players are going to be moving in and out of that refresh whenever they feel like they want to refresh. And that means that you're going to get your workers back and place them back on your player board. And there are a variety of workers, and there are cards that ask for you to activate them with a particular type of worker. So you can gain and gather workers, and then you're going to be placing them out on your cards, but there are a couple ways to tuck or splay cards as well. And so you're going to be doing those particular actions as you further explore the map, going further and further away from base camp, which is where you begin. Now, everyone's controlling this massive mech, and their mech has a special ability, which is their asymmetrical player board. They also have these characters that they play. One of them is a person, the other is a companion, and those special cards are the way that players have this kind of, again, interesting, unique asymmetrical start or beginning and actions throughout the game that are just special to them. Only one mech can be on a space at a time, but you can move through other mechs. And so while there is no area control, there is no moving out and conquering land, there is a slight blocking when it comes to activating certain tiles, especially if you want to go somewhere where there is an opponent. Simply wait for them to move though, because when you do the move action, you're not allowed to stay on the same tile. You have to move away from it, and you can't move back right away. So it will open up for you eventually if you just wait and plan accordingly. So there are some fascinating features here, and the theme with expeditions is kind of dark and supernatural, which, you know, compared to Scythe is a little different. But I think that this has, like, again, wholly unique mechanics and a different feel than Scythe, but it has like less conflict in a really good way. Now, the one thing it does have that is different from Scythe is more luck. There are more places where you don't know information, and when things are revealed, it could, you know, really kind of impact what your strategy or game is. So one of those is that the tiles are face down with the exception of the south tiles. So to go and explore them, you are going to gain an explore token, which is really good. I'll talk about that in a minute. But then you flip over the tile and you really don't know what's there, so you're kind of gambling. So not knowing where every tile is in the game means that there absolutely is this kind of luck as part of it, because you're not sure exactly what you're going to get. And if you're looking for particular tiles to essentially complete missions, that can be a little frustrating, especially if those tiles are not discovered early on. So that's one luck part of it. The deck is so big and you don't go through all the cards, and if you're really looking for a particular type of card, it can be hard to find and really hard. You spend a lot of time looking for those particular kinds of cards. So that's, I think, a little bit tricky too with the luck of the draw. And then the last one is there is a bag that has these wooden tokens in them. These are corruption tokens, and they are drawn from the bag until you reach a threshold or exceed a threshold on a tile when it's revealed. And so players go there to kind of battle corruption, and if you get the wrong kind of corruption, because again there are two types, or the numbers maybe exceed what you have to defeat it, and you're planning for going there and you're planning on doing that, that can also be just a little bit of a, you know, luck turn maybe in your favor or against you and what you actually have prepared for your own player board. So those are a couple different more luck-based things that you're not sure exactly what you're going to get, what you're going to find, and how you're going to maybe defeat those corruption tokens. The one thing that you have to know about expeditions is this is a race. It is a full-on race. Not only do you have to maximize your turn by doing as much as you can every single time and knowing when to refresh and then when to kind of start over again, but it's a race because once a player has accomplished 4 goals on a major like collective board where players are putting down, yep, I've done this goal, I've done that goal, I've done this goal. Once they've done that, the game is over. And so if a player's really racing hard to accomplish these goals, things like solving 4 quests, finding 4 meteorites, upgrading 4 items, vanquishing the corruption from the location that has 20 on it, or have at least 7 corruption tokens in any combination, have at least 8 cards in your control, and then the last one is have either 7 meeple figures or worker figures or 5 exploration tokens. So those are going to be those major goals that players are going for. They're the glory categories. And again, when a player has accomplished that 4th one and they've placed it down, every player takes one more turn and then that's it. So there is a little bit of, okay, we know it's the end now. We get to kind of respond, but it's a race. So once that player places that 4th marker down, yeah, you got to make sure that you are ready for the end of the game. So with that being said, there's just a lot to like about this. I really like the non-combative nature, but also the conflict of vying for those cards in the center that are visible and public to everyone. Also, racing for the goals is really fun because, again, I can go to the same goal, you can go to the same exact one as I did. We're not competing and locking other players out, and the paths that we take to get there are so different. So for me, this has probably more appeal than pulling out Scythe. Expeditions is shorter. I think that I really enjoy that card-driven nature of building up your engine and, having the worker placement that you're putting out on your own cards, but also you're driving around. And I love the idea of exploring. There are some of those luck of the draw features and flipping over particular tiles that could potentially be frustrating. But with this being a race and really figuring out and maximizing your turn, again, with those 3 major actions, move, play, and gather, you've really got to figure out what you're up to, and you can do this all in 90 minutes or less, and Scythe is definitely going to take you longer than that. So for me, I think this is just a lovely follow-up. This is a lovely sequel in the same world as Scythe, but maybe Expeditions will come out more often, and I'm really, really excited to check out all the other factions, and which are the different mechs that have a different ability, and then also the combinations of the characters with the companions so that I can keep trying out different starts to see how that changes my strategy and really affects my overall gameplay. I will say though that it's hard to know exactly how well you're doing, and while it might seem that other players are doing quite well, just remember that there are a variety of ways to score, and while you get points in game, there are also points at the end of the game that matter as well. And so keep your eye on where all the points are and go for those, but know that there might be some hidden places that you are not necessarily anticipating. But have fun with it because this has just a ton of theme, and I really, really enjoy the world. The world feels gritty and the world feels hard, and there's nothing cooler than those massive mechs. I'm sorry, usually I'm not a big fan of minis and especially massive minis, but I kind of like them. I kind of like them a lot. So it's kind of big and bulky, and I kind of like how everything is just massive sized in this game. Okay, that's going to be it for me with Expeditions. Check it out, and I'll see you next time, folks. Bye.